Welcome again to Our Lady's Room. So today we have the pleasure to host Dr. Maelle Salmon. Hello, Maelle. We are going to talk about JIT and why small commits matter and how to make them. So thank you again for joining us. This is our rebranding chapter, as you can see. And just a bit of advice that this talk, as you might know, it's recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel at Our Lady's Room. Please remember that all our attendees are expected to adhere to our code of conduct. You can find more at ourladies.org/COC. We do this to ensure a safe, inclusive, and harassment-free space for learning. We are committed to provide a respectful environment where everyone feels welcome to learn, connect, and grow. So welcome, everyone. Who we are? We are a local chapter of Our Ladies Global, which is now rebranding to Our Ladies Plus. Our Ladies Rome is a local chapter, and it is as well dedicated to promoting continuous learning in the open source community. We usually organize monthly meetings, and this is done to provide a platform to discuss current trends and hot topics, such as today, Git, and as well as we are getting to Python. So if you like to, we are actually a sort of, we are entirely volunteer organizing these tutorials, these talks and everything. And we are currently like sort of recruiting. If you'd like to join us just for sharing your ideas, know a bit more how we work and what we do, we would be very happy to hear from you. And you can fill up this form and I will get back to you. I'll put this in the chat. So we can like discuss a bit more how to collaborate. You have the form in the chat. So without further ado, I'll pass the word to my colleague, Dr. Maelle Salmon, for telling us about everything about Git.
Thank you. So let me share my screen. And thanks for the invitation. So yes, can you see my slides?
Yeah, definitely.
So today we'll explain to why small Git commits matter and how to make them. And I hope that by the end of the talk, you won't choose the devil emoji to represent Git anymore. So I would like to start by mentioning an old computer game that I used to play when I was a kid because it reminds me a bit of Git. So this game was called The Incredible Machine, in which you will build incredible machines. For instance, you had the whole screen, a light switch on the right, and you had some elements to build your machine with. You had like maybe a cat, a balloon, a mouse, and you had to turn the light switch on using like this complicated machine. This was a very fun game to play, especially once you know what each element could do. Like a cat would run after a mouse. The mouse would want to eat cheese. The balloon would go up. And knowing how the individual like objects and animals could do helped you reach your goal. And I think that with Git, that's a bit of the same. Once you know a bit more about how it works and what it can do for you, you can use it in a workflow in a much more enjoyable way. And I hope that I can share this enjoyment with you today. So Git is handy. So if you already use Git, and I hope you use it a bit, so you lose your work less. You can experiment on different aspects in different branches. So this is very useful when you work as a team or on your own on different aspects of a project. And you get a history that you can use either locally, like in your terminal, your local IDE, or on platforms like GitHub. I've put a list of my favorite resources at the end of the deck. And when we start learning Git, I felt that one message we hear a lot is that we should build small commits with informative messages. And I would like to present 3 reasons why it's so important. So the first reason is this: you get an old project from someone, or this is a script that you wrote, but like before you went on vacation, so you forgot a lot of context. And you have this line that assigns x minus 1 to x, and you have no idea why. And unfortunately, there is no comment that explains why this happens. So one tool that might help you find out why this line of code exists and whether you can remove it or like change it is git blame. Git blame is a bad name. It should be called git explain because we don't want to blame anyone, but that's the name of the command. So here is like a schematic image of what git blame does. For each line of code in your script, it shows you when it was last modified or when it was added, by whom, and with which message. And you can, if you use it in an interface, you can click on the commit and get more information. So for instance, I can see that the line I am interested in was added in 2017 by a bot. And if I want to learn more about what it does and why it's here, I have to click on the commit. And this is where someone chose my adventure. If I am not lucky, I get a big commit that changes more than 100 files, many lines added, many lines deleted, and it says commit a bunch of files before lunch. I hope you didn't do that before coming to the meetup. And this commit doesn't help me understand what the line of code does. If I'm lucky, I get a small commit that changes only 2 files. It has 3 lines added, 2 lines deleted, and the message says adapt code to tool 0 indexing. So that sort of makes sense. I can understand why this line was added. And I can add a comment above the code lines, but next time I don't have to dig into git blame, but I am no longer stuck. And this only because this commit was small and add an informative message. So this was the first reason why to use git blame. Now imagine we had a bad idea 7 commits ago, and we have to undo the idea because it's bad for the project. So do we manually remove the change? And unfortunately, this is a change that we made in several files. So we'd have to open all these files, remove the change, save them. So it's going to take a little time. Or do we revert the commit that added the change? Because with Git, this is something that exists. You can actually undo a whole commit. The thing is, reverting a commit, it only works well if the commit is small. If you undo your bad idea from 7 commits ago, but this same commit had other stuff in it, you will have to re-add this stuff to your project. So then git revert won't help you do this faster. So I will do a demo. In this talk, I'm going to show a few demos. All the first demos will be in RStudio IDE, and the 2 last ones will be in Positron. And for this demo, I use my package called saperlipopette that creates playgrounds to experiment with a small Git challenge. And I create them in a local temporary directory using the wizard package. I'm going to copy that in my RStudio session. So when I run a saperlipopette function in RStudio, it will open a new session of RStudio inside the new project that was created. And it shows me a message about what I need to solve in this session. So what it tells me, it uses a very cool website called OshitGit. OshitGit is a documentation of bad scenarios you can find yourself in when using Git, and it shows you how to fix them. And part of the function of saperlipopette that come from OshitGit, I use the scenarios, I make them not general, but specific so that we can try the solution. So here the problem is that I need to undo a commit from like 5 commits ago. I want to undo my fix things commit as it broke stuff. There is a link to the OshitGit entry if we want to read that. So I'm just going to show how this website looks like. So it's a single page, and it has all these bad scenario. For each scenario, you get like the bad thing, and you get a Git command that you would run, and sometimes with some other comments. So that's super useful. Oops, I was here. Okay. So let me look at the history. So this is in RStudio. The history is in this Git tab on the top right. So that's one way to explore history. You can explore history and solve the exercises as you prefer. And so I have several commits, and the second one is called fix things. That's the one I want to undo. So one solution, before I knew git revert, what I would do is I would actually undo the changes manually, but we're going to use git to undo this change. So I need the ID of this commit, the hash, that I take from here, like this SHA here. I'm going to copy it. So sometimes I make the mistake to take this SHA, but this is the one from the parent, and this is not the one we want. We want the SHA, the ID of this commit. And then it's I have git revert, the ID I paste, and I am going to add something called, no commits. The reason for that is that if I don't add this flag, no commit, it will open my Git editor for me to type the message. But I have set my Git editor to be positron, which is very good because I usually work in positron, but here it would be confusing because we are in RStudio. So I'm just doing no commit. And what it did is it staged a change that undoes the commit. So now I only have to do the commit. So undo change, I do the commits. So like this. And if I look at the history, I need to refresh. So I had this fixing commit, but I did a file called fix.txt with the content that was lala, and I have the commit that undoes the change. So in this case, this was a change in one single file, but it could have been a bigger change and it would have worked the same way. So this was the second reason why having a small commit, commits was worth it. So the third and last reason, like at least for today, maybe there are probably other reasons why it's good to have small commits. So is this case where you have a complicated project and 3 days ago you were doing a thing with this project. Then you kept working on the project, but you were not doing that particular thing. You were doing other things. And today you try doing this thing that you were doing 3 days ago and it no longer works. And because it is such a complicated project, it's very hard for you to try and find the bug. And one way to solve this problem is to use something called git bisect, which is a mode of Git. So git bisect will help you look at the commit history in an optimal way so that you find the commit that introduced the bug. So this faces is a commit history. Each face is a commit. On the left, I have a commit, an emoji that is a face with sunglasses. This is when things worked. And on the right, I have a sobbing face, which is right now when things no longer work. And in the meantime, they are all sleeping faces because I don't know what their status is yet. I don't know whether the project was broken or not at this stage. And like, unfortunately, I was not sleeping when I made these commits. I was doing changes without checking I wasn't breaking the thing. But now I am going to find the culprit. So git bisect will throw your project at the state it was at a commit. So for instance, it starts here as a third commit. It will put all my files as they were at this commit, and I will try and run the thing. And imagine it works. Then I know that the first 3 commits are good. They don't have the bug that I noticed earlier. Then maybe git bisect will throw me at the 5th commit, and I will try and run my thing. If it doesn't work, I know that this commit and all the commits after it have the bug. I have here one last commit to check, which is the 4th commit, and I try to run my thing. If it does not work, I know that this is a commit that added the bug. So now, again, and you can imagine how it goes, the result of git bisect is a commit. So if it is a very big commit that says commit a bunch of files before workout, many files change, I'm not getting any help from this. This is not going to help me solve my bug. If it's a smaller commit that says, for instance, refactor, start using YAML, there are like a few changes, I will find the bug in this commit and I will be able to fix it. So I am going to demo git bisect. Let me just check the chat because I forgot to tell you all, you can interrupt me with questions. Okay, no questions at this stage. So this is another exercise in saperlipopette, and this one doesn't come from Horseshit Git. This is something I made up. And the messages tell me, hey, since when as my script.r stopped working, I need to use git bisect. And if I need more information, I can run a function called tip that has a bit more instructions. So in any exercise that you get with saperlipopette, you get the first messages, and you can get more help by running the tip function, which is specific to each exercise. But here I will try and not use it. We'll see how it goes. We are not going to open the script.r file because the bug that is in there is very easy to find, like we see. But we have to imagine it's not easy to find, which is why I will use git bisect. So let me source the script. So I get an error. So I'm going to start using git bisect. And for that, I go to terminal and I type git bisect start. And it tells me that you need to know the good and bad commit, like the start and end points of the search. So for that, I go to the git history. So the good commit that I know of is the first one, because when I first started running this project, it worked. So I type git bisect good and the ID of that commit. So now it's waiting for the bad commit. And the commit which I know that it does not work is the current commit, the last commit. So I'm copying its ID. And this vocabulary, good and bad, this is how git bisect speaks. So it's very easy English. So now git bisect has thrown me into the state that the project was at a certain commit, and I have to try and run the script to see whether this is a good or a bad commit. So there is an error. So this is a bad commit. So what I need to do now is to type git bisect, oops, bad. And now I have another commit to check. I'm trying to source my script. I am getting the error again. So I can type git bisect bad. I get another commit to test. I'm not getting an error. So this one is good. Sourcing the script again. I am getting the error. So this one is bad. This is bad again. This is bad. Oops, I didn't want to pause the screen sharing. Sorry. This one was bad, I think. Yes. So it tells me 0 revisions left, 0 steps. This doesn't mean it's done. It means that there will be 0 step after this step. So which is a bit confusing at first. And this one is a good commit. So I can type git bisect good. And now git bisect gives me the result, which is this commit. So I'm going to copy the first part of the ID. Git bisect is a mode. So if I want to do a commit, if I want to explore history, I have to exit git bisect. And we do that by typing git bisect reset. Now we're out of git bisect, and I can look at the history. I can search for this commit that has a bug. And I see that in my script, I had all these additions, 1 plus 10, 1 plus 11, 1 plus 12, and then I had this line that has R, and this is a variable that hasn't been defined, which is why I had a bug. So this is a very simple bug, but git bisect can help you when you have a bug that is harder to find. And I would say that it's worth it, like practicing git bisect like before you get such a bug, because when you have a very complicated bug to solve, you might be stressed, you might be in a hurry. So it's better if you already know how to use git bisect. So this was the bug. Now you've seen that git bisect was very, very repetitive. Like I was getting a commit to test, I would test it, and then I had to write the result. But in this case, because when my project was in a bad state, there was an actual error. Git bisect is very easy to automate. So I will show you how to run git bisect again, but like with less effort. So I'm going to start again, git bisect start. And from the history, I'm going to take the first good commit, which was the first commit. So it's git bisect bad. No, this was a good one. Sorry. And the bad commit is the last one. So now instead of doing all the manual steps, I am going to do git bisect run, and the command is our script, our script.r. I think that's like it. We'll see if I made a mistake and I need to check the tip function. But the command is git bisect run. Okay, so it's working. So now git bisect is doing all these checks for me, because when the project was broken, it was returning an actual error. It's very easy to see what's good, what's bad. And it's giving me the same result as it did before, except I didn't have to do anything. I could just wait. So this is much better. And it's faster, it's less boring, and I also think you can make fewer mistakes. Like it would be very easy, at least for me, to type good instead of bad. So this was git bisect. So to summarize about like all this idea of having a small informative comments, in the book Git in Practice, Maëlle wrote, there's no need for everyone to see the mistakes you made along the way. So you can have your messy Git history, but then you fix it. I hope that people you work with are okay with your making mistakes along the way, but you don't have to keep them in the Git history. And I will show you how to make the Git history better without doing too many efforts. And for me, like a turning point was realizing that getting a nice Git history is not something you do, or not something you necessarily do at the same time as your work. Like I find it very difficult to write good R code, for instance, and at the same time get good Git commits. Like I cannot do the two things at the same time, but this is fine. You can first get your project at the stage you want it to be, and then fix the history. So it can really happen in two times, which means you have the opportunity to fix the Git history. So I wrote 2 blog posts about this, so the links are in the slides. And my first advice on this is to work in branches. If you want to add a new feature to your project, start a new branch. If you want to fix a bug, start a new branch, because it's much easier to fix the history in a branch. But the first method I will show you does not need a new branch. That's the only one. All the other methods I will show need a branch. So this method is called the repeated amend. It's not from me, it's from Happy Git with R. And it's based on using git commit amend. So I will first show you what git commit amend is, so that if you've never seen it, you understand what the method is about. So this is a new exercise. I'm looking at the question. Sorry, I see there is a question about git bisect, so I'm seeing it right now. I guess so. If you you would run, you could run git bisect run with Carto, I think in the CLI. Like it's, yeah, definitely. Like you could use git bisect run with any like command you would write in the terminal. So yes, I think it would work. So back to this exercise about git commit amend. So here's the messages that I committed and immediately realized I need to make one small change. I wanted to list 3 things in my blah file, not only 2. There is a reference to a OSHIT git entry, and I can get more help using tip. So let me look at the blah file. So this is a file. It has only 2 things in it, thing 1, thing 2, and I probably wanted to add a third one called thing 3. I will run tip to show you how the tip function looks like. So the tip function tells me that I first need to add thing 3 to the blah file and save it. Then I need to stage it using git add blah. So if we look at the git tab in R2, now it's checked. So it's been staged. And now I run git commit amend no edit. So this is a bit of a puzzling command, because amend and edit are like our synonyms. So They mean the exact same thing, except here, amend means I want to amend the last commit. And no edit means I do not want to change the message of the last commit. So using git commit amend, we could change both the content and the message of the last git commit. But here, I will only change the content of that commit, which is why I use amend, no edit. Let me copy that to the terminal, git commit amend, no edit. And it's been done. So if I look at the history, but I need to refresh. Oops, where is it? Now my last commit, fit blah, adds the 3 things. So I have changed this commit, and we change the ID. Like this is really a new commit, but a better one. So that's it for this exercise. So really git commit amend is about like fixing up the last commit. So using the existence of this, we can do the repeated amend. So the method that was presented in Happy Git with R, like you do that on the main branch, on the default branch of your repository. So you imagine you want to add a cool thing to your project, but it's going to take a while. So you first work a bit towards that goal, like you add maybe a few lines of code. And at this stage, you create a commit that has an aspirational message. It says fit add cool thing, which is now, like right now, not true. You have not added the cool thing, but you have already created this commit. Now you do a second bit of work. And what you do is you run git commit amend no edit. This way, you're like improving the commit. And you do that again and again until what you have in your project and what you have in your commit are perfect. And this is the actual commit, and you push it to your online repository. This way, the commit that you push to the online repository is perfect, as if you had figured things out in the like right away. So this is the official repeated amend. I like to do the repeated amend on a branch. This is a bit different, but very similar. So I create a branch. Maybe I call it feature thing. I do the first bit of work in my project. I create the commit with the aspirational message, and then I push it. And because I'm on a branch, that's fine. Like the second time I do git commit amend, I push as well, but because I am editing the last commit, I need to do a first push, git push first, which you should not do on the default branch. So you're on a branch, so that's fine to do git push first. And I really like doing it because I like the idea of having this like sort of backup of having my work online already. So I do this again and again. And at the end, the last push is a push force again. So this was git commit amend, like a way to gradually build a good commit. So this is the third method to improve your history. And I will present 3 other strategies to improve your history. So the second method is the idea of squash and merge. So you work on a branch to add a cool thing, and you have a list of commits that tell a good history of your workday, like all the things that you struggle with, but this is not the history that should be on the main branch. This is not the history of your project. So if you're on GitHub or GitLab, you can click on, and you can do that locally as well, but it's just that it's something I always do through the GitHub interface. So I squash and merge. This way, all these commits on my branch, they become one single commit on the main branch, where I can choose the message and make it informative. So I can really clean up the mess in this way. So let me show you an example from the dplyr repository. So this is a pull request with 9 commits, but it has been merged into one, say, like squash and merge into one single commit on the main branch. So this way it's very, very tidy. These 2 methods, repeated amend and squash and merge, they would go from several commits to one single commit. So sometimes that's right, that's what you need, but you might need more granularity. You might need to go from a mess to a few commits, not only one commit. So I will show you 2 methods for that. So the first is start from scratch. So you have all these changes on a branch, like a mess of commits. The files are in a good state. That's what you want, but the history is messy. So what you can do is reset your project using git reset mix. So the changes remain in the files. Your files remain as they are. You are not losing your work, but they are not in the Git history. So you can build good commits in Insight because they are not in the Git history. The change, you can add them one by one. And for that, you use like the git add comment to stage files, and you can even use git add patch. With git add patch, you can choose which like chunks of a file you add to a commit. If you made many changes to one single file, you can split these changes into 2 commits using git add patch. And depending on what you use to interact with Git, there might be a graphical interface to that, like where you can choose in a file, this change I want, this change I do not want. And there is an exercise in saperlipopette about git add patch, but I'm not going to show it today. So let me show you what I mean by start from scratch with this exercise. And this exercise I will do from Positron. So Positron is this new IDE by Posit, and it's a fork of VS Code. So I have the console here, and I'm going to put my saperlipopette comments in there. And if I run saperlipopette from Positron, it will open the new exercise in Positron as well. Okay, so here's the message I get tells me that I want the commit history of the feature branch to look smarter. I can undo the commits and keep the changes, and I can run tip to get more help. So let me look at the history of my branch. I am on the branch where I have a commit that adds a CI configuration, another one that adds the script. Then I have 2 commits that try to fix the CI, 1 commit that try to fix the script, 1 commit that adds the CI thing, and 1 commit that fixes the script. So I have really 2 like streams of development in this branch. I have things related to the CI, things related to the script. So what would be ideal probably is to have 2 commits, one about the CI, one about the script. And let me just look at the file so we can see they haven't changed later. So I have a script, blah.r that does 1 over 2, and I have a CI configuration file. So to start from scratch, I need to find the ID of the commit before my changes. So this is the first commit. So I right-click and I copy its ID, like what we did in RStudio. Like you can find a way to copy the ID of a commit. And I type git reset mix. So it's very important to type mix. There is something called git reset hard, and when you do, like sometimes it's useful, but here it would remove the changes from my file. So I really don't want to do that. So now what I have is that my script is still the same. My CI file is still the same, but as a commit, oops, if I only have the first commit. So I can now build the commits in Insight. So I will create 1 commit with the CI script for CI configuration. I commit this. And then I can create a second commit where I stage the script. And I add the script in a commit. So now if I look at the history of my branch, I have 1 commit that adds the CI configuration, 1 commit that adds the script. So really now the history looks much better than it used to do to look before I started from scratch. So how can I close this? Okay, I had the zoom toolbar in my way. So this was a method for going from a mess to a few commits that are more that are smaller and more informative. So there is another way to do the exact same things, which is called git rebase interactive. Let me look at this example in Positron as well. So it tells me the exact same thing it told me before, which is I want the commit history of the feature branch to look smarter. And it's actually the exact same scenario. So if we look at the git history, these are the same commits than before. The files are the same, but we are going to fix it in a different way using git rebase interactive. So I still need the ID of the first commit here before the changes. And in my terminal, I will type git rebase interactive and so you saw a very nice interface that I removed. I will do the git rebase interactive twice, once using this text interface, which is the classical one in a way, and then I will show you how it looks like using this nice interface, which comes from git lens extension in positron. So here is the text file I need to change. It has all the commits, but from the oldest one to the latest one, which is a contrary from what you get if you run git log. And I am going to modify it. And I have a documentation. For some reason, I put my git in Spanish, but this is the documentation of the command. It tells me that I can change the word here to change the fate of this commit. I will first reorder the commits. So to reorder the commits, I cut them and I copy them like this. So I'm cutting this one and pasting here. If I did it right, so I wanted to put all the commits related to CI together and all the commits related to the script together. So I'm saving, and I will run a first rebase like this. I will run this rebase again. Text, and now I want to merge some commits together. So what I'm going to do for this here, instead of writing pick, I'm writing fix up. So fix up means that the changes from this two commits are going to be merged together, and it will use a message of this commit, which is a good message. I'm going to type fix up here too, and here. Because I really want two commits only in the end. So I'm saving and closing. The rebase will not happen. And if I look at the history of my branch, now I have a commit that adds a CI configuration and a commit that does a script. So this is git rebase interactive, and you can run it as many times as you want, first time to reorder the commit, first time to merge the commit. This helps you not get confused by doing these things step by step. But I will run it again using the nice interface because it's then much easier. So I'm recreating a playground from saperlipopette. So I need the ID of the first commit before the changes here. Okay, and I'm going to the terminal, and I restart the git rebase interactive. So this is what I get from GitLens, which is an extension you can install in Positron, and it's very nice, which is why I want to show it, because it lets you drag and drop the commits, and it lets you change the fate of the commit using a drop-down menu. So I will first reorder the commits as I did before. Oops. But it's much nicer to drag and drop them because then they don't disappear at all. So now you have the four commit that fix the CI, that adds the CI configuration, and the 3 commits related to the script. So I can stop here and start a rebase. Then I run it again, and this time I am going to merge the commit together. So here I want to fix up. And what is very nice is that I already get a visualization of what's going to happen. Like I see that the 2 commits are going to become 1 commit only, and that the message of the first one is going to be used. So I can do that. This. So I already see that I will get 2 commits, and the messages they will use. So I can start the rebase by clicking. And the history of my branch is now smarter. So using some sort of graphical interface makes it much easier, I think. So this was git rebase. there are very good posts by Julia Evans about rebasing. I am proud to say I follow them today. I did not reorder and merge my commits at the same time because in one of the rules for rebasing, this is a comic, it says, don't do more than one thing in a Git rebase interactive. So we've run it twice every time, like once to reorder the commits, once to merge the commits. This is best practice because we will do fewer mistakes if we do it this way. So to summarize, why should you have small informative commits? It's if you create them, you get a better history, which is useful when you run git blame to understand why a given line of code was added or modified. Git bisect to debug with Git when you have a complicated bug that you do not find in any other way, and Git revert to undo a commit. So to create a better history, you don't have to get it right on the first try because you can always like fix the history after the fact. You can use the repeated amend, by which you gradually build a good commit using git commit amend. Squash and merge PR, so you have all the changes in a branch, a mess of commits, and you merge it as a single commit on the main branch. You can start from scratch, so you have all the changes in a branch. You use git reset mix to keep the changes in the files, but remove them from the history. This way you can build good commits in hindsight. Or you can use mix and match your commits, by which I mean using git rebase interactive to reorder and squash or drop some commits over a branch. So using the package I've used today, you can create some playgrounds to like practice some git commands. And you can create them in temporary directory. You can delete the directory after you've done the exercise. So this way you're practicing, but you're not like breaking an actual production project. So I'm trying to rewrite saperlipopette as a CLI. This is my Rust learning project, but this is not very advanced for now, but the idea will be that it won't be specific to R, but it will be more like saperlipopette as something you can run in the terminal to get the exercises. And just a note on the tools you can use to use Git. So you can use the terminal. In some exercises, I've used the terminal. The advantage of using Git in the terminal is that the commands never change, like the name, like in the terminal is very stable. And you learn the words of the things, like you learn that choosing which fragments of changes in a file you add to a commit, this is called git add patch. You can use Git support in RQID, which is very basic. In Positron, what I really like is that you can install extensions, like the Git Lens extension that provided a much better experience for Git Rebase Interactive, and there are other like features in Git Lens and other extensions. And you can use any IDs you want. For me, what's very important is that you can use Git as you prefer, because Git should not be in your way. Like it should be something that helps you. And I've heard good thing about GitHub Desktop, which is an interface for interacting with GitHub, like pull requests, for instance. So thank you, and these are the links to my slides and to the package.
Thank you very much, Maëlle. We are nearly the end of this nice talk. Let me see. I feel like trying out all the ideas shared. Yes, and I will personally go back to the recording because, you know, that Maëlle presented us very interesting steps that just will need to go back in there and have a look at them more carefully. Everything was very useful. Thank you again, Maëlle.
And thank you again for the invitation, and thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks, many thanks for joining us. And I hope we can arrange more talks like this. And so as soon as you have some things, just please let us know. And so stay tuned. Next month, I don't know if you know, but we open a new Rome, our users group. And so that would be dedicated to in-person events. I'm sure that as we are international community, we don't, so not all of us have the chance to come to Rome, but in case you have that, we are going to meet in person at the end of this of June. And as well as we will go online, so you have the chance for follow us as well, even if you are not in Rome. So thank you very much again, and I look forward to seeing all of you next month. And thank you again, Maëlle, and see you soon. Bye now.